pay you later on. Okay, let's take a look at what's ahead for our region. We want to start by looking at a quick review of very significant events that have occurred in 2011 that will have a lasting impact on our region, not just this year, but for many years to come. We'll start with Southwest Airlines. Just a year ago this month, they began service to our region. Fares have dropped, passenger volume has increased, but the real impact of Southwest are the markets that they're opening up to us. Meeting planners that only consider locations where Southwest flies are already calling, and that's just one example of how they will impact our region for years to come. Condé Nast ranked Charleston as the #1 destination in the country for the first time late last year. And you can bet rankings like that will result in boosts in our visitor industry, and that will impact nearly every sector of our economy. There are only 3 places in the world that do what we do right here in Charleston, thanks to Boeing and their decision to locate the 787 assembly operation in North Charleston. This distinction is a game changer for our region and places us on the global business platform. Post-45 Harbor Deepening Study received funds and the go-ahead this year. There are 4 ports on the East Coast today that have 50 feet or more of depth: New York, Baltimore, Norfolk, and Miami. Our goal is to be the first on the South Atlantic to achieve that depth. In doing so, Charleston will be positioned long-term as a major U.S. port. Charleston was ranked first in the country for the percentage of increase in adults with a higher education degree over the last decade. What that means is there are lots of smart people moving here, and they bring with them expectations of what our community needs to be. And finally, the Regional Development Alliance launched Opportunity Next, a new 5-year economic development plan to significantly grow 4 major clusters in our region. So now let's look ahead at what we see the forecast. I'm going to very briefly recap our forecast from last year, compare that to actual performance, as well as give you our look ahead for both 2012 and 2013. Let's start with labor force and employment. Our predictions last year were actually remarkably close. We predicted unemployment for the year to average 8.8%, and it was actually a little better at 8.6%. Going forward, we're forecasting very conservative job growth of 1.5% for 2012, and again that amount for 2013. What we don't expect is for the labor force to grow by that same amount, so the result will be the region's unemployment rate will decline from 8.6% in 2011 to 7% by 2013. We said last year that we thought 8,800 homes would be sold in the region, and there were actually 9,000. Well, we also thought the average sales price would increase more than it did. The average sales price in the region was $252,000 last year, and we thought $268,000 was the number it would be. We are more optimistic on this segment of the market going forward. Our forecast is for home sales to increase by 3.5% this year and another 3% the following. And we also think the average sales price will rise slightly over each of the last 2 years. This chart says it all. If you look from 2007 to the forecast in 2013, you can see what sector of this economy has taken the hardest hit. And it's still struggling. The bright spot this year was in the multifamily market, where we saw a number of projects both approved and permitted. We still see a couple more years before any significant building in the residential market begins. There's signs of improvement are everywhere, and we're better off than many markets across the country, but we see us remaining relatively flat for the next couple of years. We predicted total retail sales in our region would reach $19.5 billion last year, and they actually climbed over $20 billion in the 3-county area for the first time. Tourism is a big part of retail sales in our region, but also the construction and housing markets still have a heavy influence on this sector. And consumers have changed their habits. They're now looking for bargains and discounts. Because of that, we're forecasting modest growth in the retail sector for the next year and the following. Port container volume fell below our forecast last year, the result primarily of the global marketplace. As a result of container cargo being where it is, the South Carolina State Ports Authority has focused on an aggressive cargo diversification strategy to grow the non-container part of their business. In 2011, Charleston's break bulk cargo grew by 21% compared to a 1.2% growth in the container cargo. For 2012, we project container cargo to be relatively flat with a 3% growth rate expected in 2013. And because of their strategy to grow other segments of this business, beginning next year, we will add non-container cargo to our forecast going forward. Last year, airport traffic was one of the things the Economic Outlook Board changed in the forecast because we knew Southwest was about to land. Traffic bumped up as much as 20 and 30% once Southwest arrived. For the year, we had an average of a 15% increase in passenger volumes. We expect those volumes to remain high and to continue to grow with a 3% growth rate for each of the next 2 years. For the hotel industry, revenue per room night is the gauge used to measure financial performance of hotel properties. This past year, the region's visitor industry experienced a great year from attraction attendance, hotel occupancy, and the overall number of visitors. We thought RevPAR would actually perform better than it did, predicting it at $83 a night when it was actually $81. But we don't see anything on the horizon to stop the visitor industry from continuing to grow in the future. And we're bullish on RevPAR for the next 2 years. We see an increase of 3.5% next year, or this year, and another 4.5% in 2013. Okay, I've quickly looked through the indicators that we forecast, and I haven't hit all of them, but they're all included in your forecast book, which this year you'll receive via email when you arrive in your offices this afternoon. Before I turn the program over to Dr. Benson and our panel, let's briefly look at just a few things that are going to be happening in the next few months that will further impact our economy's performance. I consider all of them to be significant game changers for our community. The first South Carolina 787 built by South Carolinians will roll off the assembly lines within a few short weeks, and from there Boeing will ramp up production to 3 aircraft a month. The eyes of the world are on South Carolina to see if we can deliver what we've promised. If we do what we say we're going to do, the future possibilities are absolutely endless. Clemson's facility is under construction and will open in early 2013. Their facility is one of 4 shared testing facilities in the world. And it's been predicted that this facility could generate as many as 20,000 jobs in our region. That number isn't made up. That is based on what has happened in those other 3 markets. Kiowa in August will host the 2012 PGA Championship. Lots of people will come here for the event, but millions will watch and see Kiowa and Charleston in the media. And there's absolutely no way to estimate the long-term impact of the millions and perhaps billions of media impressions that will result. Post 45 will continue, and as I said earlier, the race is on to see how fast that study can be completed and we can move forward in dredging the harbor, and Charleston can become that southeastern port with 50 plus feet of depth. Okay, after 20-something years, you do all know me, and you know that I'm an optimist. But this next one, with BRAC and the defense cuts ahead of us, is the big unknown. Charleston's defense facilities today account for more than 22,000 jobs, and they have an annual economic impact of almost $5 billion in our economy. The Defense Department is expecting to cut 25% out of its budget, and no matter what we do to keep those facilities, we're going to feel those cuts locally. The cuts are coming, whether they're coming through the 2 proposed BRACs or the Defense Department just does it on their own. Our push is to do all that we can to keep those cuts to a minimum here and to hopefully bring new facilities and expand our missions instead. One final graph. As the economy expands, and it will, growth is going to return, and the voices of those who are against growth will rise. Between 2000 and 2010, the population of our region grew by 21%. If we grow at that same rate over the next 8 years, our region's population will reach 800,000 by 2020. With all that on the horizon, a 2% growth rate each year in our population is a very conservative number. So the question isn't, will we grow? It's how will we grow? We can get ahead of the game now and figure out how to implement sustainable economic growth, manage it well, and develop the resources and infrastructure to support it. Significant business expansion is ahead of us, and it also brings a greater urgency to our region to develop a larger workforce pool with skills employers demand. The potential facing this region right now is absolutely unprecedented. The opportunity to transform this place is literally sitting at our feet, ready for us to take hold and move forward. To do that, I believe we have 5 critical things we have to do. Businesses today have the opportunity to operate anywhere in the globe. For our region to successfully attract business and expand those that are here, we must understand the needs of business and meet those needs faster than ever before. Talent. This is our biggest challenge and the one that can differentiate us from every other place. We must be able to develop, attract, and maintain a highly skilled, strongly motivated, and creative workforce. If we can do that, there is no stopping us. When one guy blocking a bridge can bring a region of 675,000 people to a grinding halt, we clearly don't have enough infrastructure. Businesses of every size and all sectors are telling us that their ability to get their people to and from work and their products to market can make or break the success of their daily operation and drives expansion and relocation decisions. High taxes, costly regulations, and regulatory uncertainty will drive business out of our area and prevent them from coming here if we don't be doubly vigilant in advocating at the federal, state, and local government for decisions that support business, not overburden it. Businesses today need our region to be fast, streamlined, and responsive to their needs. They expect us to work collaboratively, and they don't care or pay attention to governmental boundaries and jurisdictions. Businesses want a region that works well and works together. This will be what propels us to our highest level of potential growth and prosperity. If we can tackle these issues effectively, we can win. We're at the envy of regions across this country. It's time for us to seize our future.